talking Dinosaur Hotel. This one stars Chrissie Wunna as Sienna, a single mother who has her real life kids actually play her real kids in this movie. And this one is directed by Jack Peter Monday, written by Sharon Holiday and produced by prolific B-movie producer Scott Jeffrey, who is knocking out these kind of like low budget indie British horror sci-fi movies like no one's business. Bam, shoot it over a weekend, same location, why not film two films, same cast, bam, shoot out another one. That's kind of the mantra of Jagged Edge Productions and a number of other production houses as well, that kind of shoot out these low budget schlocky movies. Now, Dinosaur Hotel is a very slap together movie, but it has quite a fun B-movie schlocky appeal. I'll say this. What's the story, you might be saying? Well, we have this games master who has created a survival game. He doesn't tell people this. He invites seemingly random women to participate in a kind of challenge and win prize money. And all that they're told is that, oh, you've got to do a number of challenges at Dinosaur Hotel, and invites them to come into this kind of hotel. All they've got to do is be the last contestant at the end of the 24 hours or what have you, and win 100 grand. So Sienna can't get babysitters for her two kids, so ends up having to bring her two young children with her, causing a little bit of a fly in the ointment. And when she's there, there's a number of other contestants who don't have any clue what's going on, and as we find out, this games master has developed a game where these women are trapped in this hotel and its grounds, surrounded by dinosaurs, T-Rex, raptors, pterodactyls, and they ultimately have to survive the night. The last one wins the prize money, etc, etc. So, what do we think? So, this is by no means a good movie, but I was still somewhat entertained. That's probably the best thing I can say about this movie. It's so ridiculous in its idea here. I mean, the concept just doesn't make any sense, and we're given no explanation about a number of things, which we'll come on to. But it's played so straight by the actors here, and the concept is so stupid, you can't help but be somewhat kind of entertained by the ridiculousness of it all. And I will say I was somewhat entertained. So that is the best thing I can say about this movie. Can I say anything else? I will say the movie is at least competently shot. You know, it's the Scott Jeffrey Productions, because they produce so many films, I will say they do at least have a relatively good like cinematography and things like that. They are at least kind of serviceable, I think is maybe the better way to describe it. So at least they shot relatively well. You know, we have, you know, good kind of establishing shots, things like this, some okay cinematography here and there, some, you know, competent kind of editing. So even though these movies are produced, you know, like, you know, they're like rabbits breeding and kind of knocking them out, they're at least on a technical level competent, you know. So there you go. The monsters here are CGI, and I think one of the critiques I'll instantly see is the CGI looks shit. And yes, the CGI isn't great, but I will say I think the dinosaurs are at least a little bit detailed. I have seen worse. You might say like that's a real backhanded compliment, and it is. But I've seen worse dinosaurs. They're on screen a little bit more than some of these other ones that I've seen. I recently reviewed Dragon Fury, and at least this had a little bit more kind of dinosaurs on screen. Anyway, that's pretty much all I was saying. I mean, the acting is acceptable, at least from the majority of the cast. You know, it's not a good movie, and it kind of maybe, I think, hits the lowest denominators for really kind of making this a you know, what you'd call a film, but it is still serviceable in some ways. Okay, but let me just kind of like say what everyone would be thinking when they watch this movie. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't bother to set up, explain anything, give us any background. So we don't know why this guy is using dinosaurs specifically to kind of like hunt women. It seems like there'd be easier ways to kind of do this. How he's created it, where these dinosaurs are kept, why no one else has kind of, you know, in the local area has seen a fucking T-Rex walking around. Again, none of that is ever kind of addressed. Why is he only selecting women? How are these women selected? Why was our main character Sienna selected? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, and then you can go one step further. It's just like, the whole thing here is that there can be only one survivor and they're going to win the prize money. And during the whole film, not one of the kind of the characters go, well, surely they're not going to let any of us survive, because then obviously then we just blow the whistle. But everyone's kind of going, you know, one will survive, thinking no one is at least considering that that whoever it ends up surviving at the end. And let me just tell you, it's very obvious who is not going to survive. But there you go. No one ever considers, oh, maybe they'll just, if we did survive, we're obviously going to go to the police. Never addressed. We have a twist where a character's motivations are revealed, and when this character happens, they suddenly grow a huge moustache and act like a pantomime villain. It's ridiculous. The acting, I mean, it isn't good. I think Wunna does the best she can here, but it's very silly. And things like, you know, when characters are looking to CGI and stuff, it's not lined up very well. Things like this, so it does come across as clunky. And my God, how many times do we need to hear women scream in this movie? It's a hell of a lot, let me just tell you. You know, as much as I can give some credit for some low-budget CGI dinosaurs, they don't look good. Okay, let me just take that back. I don't think they look bad in still images. You look at a still image from this movie, and I think they look okay. The actual textures and the dinosaurs look relatively detailed. The problem is here, I feel, is that they're so poorly rendered and animated that they kind of don't look, you know, remotely type like they're really there. And what is worse, they have this kind of robot thing which is there to kind of like give the players instructions and that looks even worse than the dinosaurs. I mean, that's just a robot ball. How easy could that have been? You know, why isn't any of the characters kind of just holding, you know, barricading themselves in a room? No one does that. And so they just kind of like prance around in the communal areas where there's lots of different kind of like ways these creatures can get at them. Things like this. So it's just ridiculously silly. So if you want a thought out plot with a interesting narrative, which kind of makes sense, which has realistic character motivations and stuff like that, it ain't this movie. It's never going to be in a film like this. And it's just so stupid that it kind of beggars belief in a lot of ways. But therein lies the charm, if you like that type of thing. And that is, I would say, the movie's biggest strength here. Is its stupid premise is, at its core, so ridiculous, it ends up being somewhat entertaining. So I will give this movie a 4 out of 10, because I did think at least I kind of enjoyed the stupidness of it and the fact that all the characters here are taking it so seriously, and it's such a kind of like almost like a car crash, but you can't help but kind of watch it to a certain degree. So there is some entertainment value here. I'll give it that. I was expecting a lot less than this, I'll be honest. 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to you next time. Bye for now.